be 2 years after the crash that claimed the life of Tina Tinter and her dog. Ex-raider Henry Ruggs is set to be sentenced tomorrow. Ruggs faces up to 10 years in prison for that deadly DUI crash.
Fox 5 spoke with Clark County District Attorney Steve Wolfson today. He will not comment on the Ruggs case until after the sentencing, but tonight is addressing the persistent problem of drinking and driving in the valley.
That includes a recent case in a crash that killed a 42-year-old mother of two. The suspected driver was released on $20,000 bail.
A person makes a conscious decision to drink and drive, and that person continues most of the time to be dangerous.
District Attorney Steve Wolfson says more must be done to keep drivers behind deadly DUIs behind bars. Fox 5 spoke to Wolfson about a case that left many of you outraged, the death of 42-year-old mother Trista Fierros. Metro Police say the suspect, Kelly Hart, was drunk, ran a red light going 66 in a 35-mile-an-hour zone. Wolfson says prosecutors wanted $50,000 bail and high-level monitoring and tracking. Instead, bail was set at $20,000. Hart's defense attorney released this statement. Ms. Hart's bail was argued in accordance with the Nevada Constitution. Bail conditions placed on her after her release from custody are being complied with and respected. The accident that is this case is heartbreaking, and my office will still do everything possible to conduct its own investigation and defend her moving forward. Trista's family spoke out last week at her memorial.
This is our justice system. That's what you let go on for killing somebody.
The judge in this case, in his infinite wisdom, set it at $20,000. To me, it's too low, because a lot of times the person that's arrested for a felony DUI death, it isn't their first rodeo. They've been out there drinking and driving many times before this.
Wolfson says every case and the facts are different, and every accused person deserves the presumption of innocence. But in his decades of work as a prosecutor and defense attorney, when someone loses their life, bail should be significant.
I wish that we could be harsher on many of these people.
Wolfson says some progress was made this past legislative session with Rex's law. The bill increases the penalty for reckless driving, causing bodily harm or death, to a minimum of 10 to 20 years in prison. Though his office also pushed for tougher sentences for DUI drivers, that language never made it into a bill.
We can get the person punished, and that is something.
And Trista's family says they were not at Hart's first court hearing where that $20,000 bail was set. From now on, though, they plan to be at every court date to make sure Trista gets justice.